because I got an idea. I'm gonna ask you guys live. By the way, obviously I edit this out if you don't agree, but I think one of the things that Dylan said before I just pressed record right now was a perfect segue. I think wait, first of all, when you said that it's a grind and you have to put in the work, obviously, right? Because a lot of people ask you, oh, where are you at? Like how much, how have you gotten this business off the ground? How much are you making? You alluded to something, it was a different comment, but along those lines. And I think it's interesting to kind of talk about that because I think a lot of people are going through the hunt and they're trying to get their business off the ground, whether it be here or any other industry. And they're insecure and they have a lot of pressure because they feel like they haven't made it yet and they don't see, the seeds kind of coming through the ground. It's not poking through the dirt yet. You heard that plane?
Barely.
You hear a plane?
No.
What the heck? That thing was loud. Nobody heard that? Whatever.
Is
Anyway,
that
it's super loud
comment you
on this
taking
end.
flight?
No, dude, for real, no, it was like super loud. Anyways, but what do you guys think? What do you guys think? I think it's interesting because I think a lot of people struggle with that, and I don't know if you guys have some insight on some things that you guys have been through personally, or stories you've heard, or just maybe thoughts when you think about that. Someone just going through it and they're like, man, I have nothing to show for it. I'm just like, I'm just like faking it till I make it hardcore on everybody that I'm enjoying this, but I am not. What do you guys think?
I'll share two thoughts that I had while you were talking, and I know Morgan's got some super hot fire.
Hey.
So first thing is we all have to pay a price, and you get different people that come from different backgrounds, whether it's in our business or other businesses, that might take off right away. Some people might take them a while. I think it's all because we're at different points in our lives. We pay different prices. And so it's not just paying the price in the business you're in, but it's in life, it's your identity, your confidence, all of that. So as we've paid a price, whether before the business we're trying or during, that's going to create character. That's going to create the confidence, the identity, what we need, basically like a tool bag, right? So like you have a tool bag and you add tools in that bag as you're experiencing life, as you're growing, as you're trying to improve. And so think about it like if before the business you're trying to start, you have a tool bag full of tools. Now you're starting this business and now you're like, okay, which tools can I use in this business? But if you have a tool bag with no tools, well, you got to be able to figure some things out. You got to go through life to add those tools in. So as we're going through things, what I tell people is be patient with the business, with the system, but be impatient with yourself. Because we can only control ourselves and what we do. We can't control the outcome of other things. So we have to understand that. And it's hard, right? Because like you said, we might compare ourselves to someone who became successful in 2 years and we're like, freak, man, like what the heck? But the way I look at it as you wanna look at others and see what they're doing, right? You wanna don't compare their success, but compare your efforts with their efforts. Because if they're putting in way more work, then they're going to get farther ahead than you. So don't compare where they're at, see how they got there, but compare your efforts. Because we all have a price to pay. So you want to pay it in a year or you want to pay it in 10 years, right? So that's kind of the way I look at it. I don't know what you think, Morgan. Let's hear from you.
What was going through my mind is the issue behind that question is mindset of the expectation of the people that are about to start a business or people that are not starting a business and they're an employee. What do I mean by that? That question has always been a question that has, to me, it's a very, how do I put this nicely? In my opinion, it's an ignorant question. And the reason why, and I've alluded to this before in one of our topics that we've talked about in the past, for people to say like, oh, how much have you made? Is your business running yet? And simply just because it's like, it comes back to identity. It comes back to like mindset. The people that usually ask those questions are people that have never tried to start a business on their own. They're the ones that are employees. that the moment they signed their name on the contract, they were spoon fed a salary. And so that's the issue, is that this world is so like, you know, if so, for example, if we gave someone dial-up internet nowadays, man, we would be like pulling out our hair, we'd be ticked, we'd have high blood pressure, like everyone would be so freaking mad. But because nowadays we just have everything so quick, so quick. We have all this information. We can just click a button on our phone, and our phone can literally like show and pull up millions of different sites to be able to look into things. So I think nowadays, like, people have this mindset of like, oh, if you're not making it fast, then there's something wrong. Then you must suck, or the business must not work. But again, that's all a mindset problem. It's all a mindset issue. And a lot of it stems from employee mindseted people.
Mhm.
And I don't mean to be rude by that. It's just the reality of it is we are an employee. We signed a contract to say, hey, I'm gonna work. And then automatically we've been given a salary. And I'll say the reason why I mention this, guys, is because I had a guy that worked with us in our business, and he had some concerns, and we talked about it. And I said, well, listen, how is this any different from what you do at your work? And we talked, and he said, oh, what about this? And I said, well, this. What about this? Well, this. It came down to one thing, just one thing that was different. And he said, and he's a good friend of mine, so I appreciated his honesty, but it was like eye-opening to me. He said, because at work, if I don't even try to work and I give a piss poor effort, I still get paid the same. But here, I'm going to have to bust my butt and actually put in a lot of effort to make this thing work. And at the end of that conversation, I had nothing left to say other than, hey, I appreciate your honesty. This is not the right thing for you then. Like, keep doing what you're doing. And like, no hate on him, right? Like, he was honest, cool. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. But that's why I say that, because it's a business and people come into businesses with employee mindsets, and that's the issue. That's where this whole thing stems from. That's where the questions stem from. That's where the frustration of, oh, it's not working, I'm not getting paid within the first 2 days, within the first 2 weeks, I'm not getting my salary. No, because why would you expect that? So your expectation is wrong. You have a messed up expectation because you're still thinking as a 9-to-5 employee, but that's not how businesses are started.
Do you feel like it's unhealthy for someone to have those expectations? So not necessarily to get paid right away. Well, I guess so. Yeah, not to get it handed to them, but do you think it's unhealthy to have them always focused on, I need to get paid now, I need to do it now? Do you feel like it's depending on what industry you're in, obviously it'll affect you in different ways, but what do you think about somebody who has that mentality that they need to get paid now, whether it be by getting paid from somebody, like them writing you a check, or you going out there and doing it yourself? Do you feel like that's unhealthy to focus on that?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. Like, I think it's healthy, like Dylan said, to be impatient with yourself, but patient with the process, patient with your team, patient with the business, but impatient with yourself. But this is what I mean by that is, and Dylan and I've talked about this a lot, is when you're trying to build a business. And guys, I think we like say, oh, I have my own business, and we so loosely throw that around nowadays that people don't really understand. Like, you are building a business, you're not just working a shift. And so building a business from zero is gonna take time. I don't care what business you're in, right? I don't care what business you're in. So the danger of having that mindset, Leighton, is it's impossible. It's nearly impossible to build a business with a scarcity mindset and being in that type of a mindset all the time of, I have no other income coming in, but I have to build this business. I have to get paid like next month. And then it ends up like messing up your mindset. It ends up messing up the way you go about your business. Like, it's a very dangerous place to be in. And so I absolutely think so. Like, if you're going to build a business, keep your full-time job as an employee. So you're still getting that paycheck every 2 weeks, and then build up enough savings, if you want to do it that way, to where now you can. right? Like all the greats, right? All the greats have done it that way. They've had enough to be able to allow them to live off of savings for a year or whatever it may be, so that they don't have to stress and have that like lack of scarcity mindset. But it's a very dangerous place to be in if you're like, I have to get paid and you're trying to build a business like that. Those two don't mix well. So I would definitely recommend to not put yourself in that position. And you don't have to. Not all businesses make you have to do that. So put yourself in a position where you don't have to think that way. You can have a growth mindset, and to be able to be impatient with yourself and push the business so you get it up fast, but you're not coming from a lack or a scarcity mindset of, I have to because I don't have money. It's a scary place to be.
For sure, for sure, and I agree. What so just playing devil's advocate? Like, what about the people that they have you know, I don't want to say like mental issues, but they have issues where it's like they can't get past the fact that they have to do it on their own. They're like, it's me or it's not going to get done. Um, and them being in that position where this is the only source of income I have, like it's like almost like that desperation, like that actually gets them to get out and do it. Do you feel like that's that kind of person with that kind of mindset still should look for I mean, I guess like a safety net to like kind of have some income coming in, but then also do it at the same time? Or do you feel like for in certain situations that might work better for someone where they're just like, dude, I had to just be in that spot where, because some of these stories I hear, like it's almost like it's uncomfortable hearing some of the struggles some people went through. I'm like, holy smokes, how did you do that? And I don't know if it just I don't know if it just if it worked for them or if they just didn't plan properly or I don't know. Obviously nobody wants to struggle, but I do know that you know, you got to be put through an immense amount of stress sometimes to get to where you want to get to. But what are both of you guys' thoughts on that?
So the thought that comes to mind is, you know, how many people have ran the 4 minute mile, right? I don't even know the percentage of how small of a fraction of percent of everyone, not in the world, but everyone that runs marathons or miles or whatever, right? So very few. So it's possible to say, hey, I'm just gonna like jump into it and this is gonna be my only thing. I'll be the first one to say, you know, anything's possible, but it's not probable. And the reason is because most people aren't willing to do what it takes. Now, now understand, you might have to not just do what it takes, but go through what you might have to go through in that situation. So let's give a dramatic example. Imagine someone starts a business and they're like, no, I don't want to have another job. I want to do it full time. Say they have a house, now they lose their house, right? Let's say they get divorced, right? So the example I'm giving is Steve Harvey, right? He had a job. He's a comedian. He went, he won, right, at the comedy club, $50. And he was driving home with this girl he was dating. He was like in tears, and he's like, the girl's like, it's $50, like relax. And he's like, you don't understand. I just found myself. So the next day he quits his job. Now 2 years later, he's still full-time comedian, but he's homeless living in his car. He's got divorced twice. Okay. So now look at him, very successful guy. So the question is, how many people are willing to go through what it takes and also go through the repercussions? We would like to avoid the losing the house, getting divorced, all of that. So what I'll ask someone is how far are you willing to go until you give up? And if we can avoid some of those things, I think if you're going to start a business, the reason you quit your job and go full time in a business is because it just financially doesn't make sense to stay at your job. Like to the point where it's like, look, you're doing so well in your business, like you need to let that business or that job go. But most people aren't willing to run that 4 minute mile. So that's going to just lead to a lot more pain and struggles than leading to success. It's not impossible, but I never recommend just jumping in, because here's the reason why. I'll say this last point. Most people, they want to just jump into business because the idea of entrepreneur sounds good. It's like, yeah, I own my time, I do whatever I want. You don't realize you work way more than a job, like way, way more hours, way harder. It's a different stress, right? Like you're trying to develop yourself while you're still trying to build a team, make income, all this stuff. So let's alleviate some of that. Let's make sure you've built up your business enough to then go full time or to quit. I think that's the biggest thing, is why is the person going full time? Is it because they just they don't have enough time to do their business and their job because they have so much coming from their business? Or is it because they like the idea of being full-time entrepreneur and now they're going to sit on their couch for the next month and say it didn't work?
Hey, well, dude, it's facts, because that happens a lot. We're obviously not gonna name names. Morgan's laughing because I don't know. I know something funny came to his mind, some thought, or maybe it's a story or something. But dude, 100% for sure. I know you guys have seen that meme. I think I might have sent it to you guys before. It's like when you quit your 9 to 5 to become an entrepreneur, and now you're working 9 to 3 a.m. It's like, dude, that's what it feels like. You're just like, oh my gosh, like that nice safe paycheck every 2 weeks, looking awfully nice these days. But so anyways, yeah, dude, I agree. I really agree. Morgan, do you have any last thoughts or any comments?
Yeah, I'll add on. One of the things too is that we've heard of pretty and I guess severe consequences that people have gone through to be able to make it happen, like Steve Harvey, right? Like Ed Milet, like some of these people that we know of, some out of our business, some in our business. But the one thing that I've always recognized, and some of the things that they've said, is it doesn't have to get to that point for you to actually become successful. And they always advise to like not let it get to that point for you to become successful. The reason why is because most people, like Dylan said, like the idea of being an entrepreneur and having the freedom to be able to do what you want, but they don't put the work in. So what happens is they end up falling to, I guess, like the lowest they can fall, right? They lose their house, they lose their car, whatever, like Dylan was talking about. And then that life-changing event creates a different type of like a conviction, or a different type of like desperation, right? That all of a sudden it moves you to do things that you would have never done before, right? Because you have no other option. Like, let's be real, most people are not going to want to beg on the side of a road for money. Some people will, right? The majority of people don't want to. It's I guess you could say it's humiliating, right? It humbles you, it drops you to your knees to be on the side of a road with a poster asking people that are driving by to give you dollars. But when you literally lost everything and you have a child to feed, you'll pretty much do anything to be able to make sure that child gets fed. Mm-hmm. So it puts you into a desperate mode to where you'll do stuff that you would have never done before if you weren't that desperate. But why get to that point, right? Why get to that point? If you can get yourself to that point mentally, and I don't mean like at ground zero, but like identity wise, work ethic wise, desperation wise, to where like, I have to make this work. I have to get this business off the ground. And if you can get there without having to go through all that, well then, man, that'd be so much better. And like all these people, right? The Ed Milets, all the people that we know that have had scenarios like that, they all say like, no, don't put yourself through that. Like, allow yourself to get there mentally before you actually have to go through the scenario, because who wants to have to go through that? So, but that's why all of a sudden they changed their work ethic, because the life-changing event changed their desperation and conviction. And then they actually started working the way that they should have been working since the very beginning. If they had been working that way since the beginning, they wouldn't have had to fall through something like that. And so just to add on to what Dylan was saying, that's the issue. And that's why I started with what I started with. It's all about mindset. Mindset literally changes everything. Why? Because every action is I forget the word. I was gonna try to sound intelligent, but you think first before you act, right? Every single action, you first have to think about what that action's gonna be, whether it's acting in the right way or whether it's sitting on the couch and eating potato chips, which is also a form of acting, but you're not doing anything
Mhm.
towards your business. So that's what I would add in. If someone needs pressure, cool. Put yourself in a pressure situation, but don't put yourself in a dire, desperate situation to where if you don't make a paycheck in 2 weeks, you're gonna lose everything. You know what I mean?
For sure. Well, let me ask you then before everybody probably thought we were finishing right now, but surprise, you get another 2, 3 minutes. I'm asking another question. So let me ask for the people who want to know, okay, well, how do you do that? Because it makes complete sense why you're saying don't physically, you know, lose your house and have your family struggle because you're like, dude, I need to hunt, I need to get hungry, like don't do that literally. But how would somebody simulate that and make it, like an artificial struggle so that they can, get to to get to wherever they're trying to get to? Like what are maybe one or two, ways you can kind of simulate that mentally so you don't have to actually go through
So
it?
so I would say don't chase the struggle. Like don't like your struggles are going to naturally come as you're achieving something great,
Yeah.
right? So if you're like trying to achieve, I don't know, whatever you're trying to get to, one of my goals is to be able to completely fund Operation Underground Railroad. That's going to be billions of dollars. So I think as you're achieving a certain goal, there's going to be natural things that come up that are challenges that you're going to face when you get there. But I look at it as like different levels in a video game, right? Like you beat the boss in the first level, and now you're like, all right, if you played a video game and you try to beat the final boss, you might not win as opposed to going through each level. So that's just like business entrepreneurship. You got to go through each level, and so you just it's kind of unexpected whatever comes at your way. But I don't think you necessarily want to like try to have these things happen. You just work towards your goal. But you have to plan. Like you have to have a plan on what you're trying to achieve and how you're going to get there. Because too often I see young people, whether it's young by age or young by experience,
Mhm.
they come into business and they have the final goal of what they want, but not the roadmap of getting there. So it's like, oh, I want to be multimillionaire. And the idea sounds great, but what are you going to do to get there? So if you have steps and a challenge comes your way, then you deal with that challenge, but you have your steps on how to get there. That's how you go from working a job and your business to going full-time business, because you have those levels you have to achieve and those checkpoints to where now you're like, okay, I'm at this point, I can quit. Um, but again, naturally, those challenges are going to come up as you're trying to achieve something great, regardless.
For sure. And that makes sense for sure. Like yeah, like I said, you definitely don't want to check because you're gonna go through enough as it is. You do not even need to look for it. It's gonna find you for sure. It just happens. It's life. Um, One of the things that I thought about too when you were speaking was I know that there have been times before, and I don't know how often you do it, but I know there's been times before where you'll like make a story in your head that's not really true, but just to kind of like think of it, okay, what if things were different, or what if that happened, like what would I do? I think that's good too, and I think that's a healthy tool to use to be like, I'm not physically going through anything. I can take myself out of this, fantasy I created whenever I want, but like while I'm here, let me feel it, and what would I do if I was in that spot? I think that's cool too. So um man, tons of nuggets. I know I kept going, I kept asking questions, but it's because I enjoy talking to you guys about these kinds of things. And I think you guys are bringing a lot of value. So super cool. Yes, I'm going to say it again. I appreciate you guys. Another one in the bag. We'll see you guys on Tuesday.
See ya.